Okay, so black and white thinking. Remember, you can't have a phobia without having black and white thinking, because the way you're thinking about it, the way you're processing this thing is, I can't cope with it, it's worse than death, therefore I must avoid it. It's a very perfectionistic, black and white, catastrophic way of thinking. It's a very extreme, all or nothing way of thinking, okay? So on your TQ report, you can see all your answers to your thinking style questions and where the percentages were formed. So your black and white thinking style is going to be at the bottom of page 16 and into 17. So what I'd like you to do is to just kind of go through them after you've done the reading and challenge them. Can you change them? What can you do to change them? What would be a more balanced and harmonious approach to these questions? So the key point of black and white thinking is that you're viewing situations or events in an extreme all or nothing terms. It can be getting sick, of course. It can be getting a cancer diagnosis. It could be an event. It could be a social outing, something like that. The way that it sounds in your head, an example could be, if I feel a little bit nauseous, then I'm definitely going to get sick. So the thing is, you can start to hear how this language can create a panic attack in your thinking. You see this a lot when people talk about good days and bad days. They'll just write off the whole day. Well, it was just a bad day. Well, a more balanced, harmonious approach would say something like, you know, the morning was a little bit rough, a couple things happened, but I'm gonna make the rest of the day brilliant. You know, it's really having a forward-looking attitude and challenging that extreme language and way of thinking. So it could be, if I don't feel 100% in control, I can't cope, like riding in an airplane, for example. If I don't feel 100% safe, then I must be in danger. So you can think of these thinking styles, in a sense, like lying to you. They're messages and stories we create in our head that are distorting our perception, our outcome. They're really just clusters of beliefs that are all very similar. So black and white thinking tends to be, you know, very restrictive, very limiting, very extreme. So why is it such a problem? This type of thinking creates unrealistic expectations and unnecessary anxiety. So I'm reading from some of the slides that I sent you and just expounding upon them a little bit. So the quiz here is very similar to these types of questions that are on your TQ report, like, I tend to think in absolute terms. I use always, every, never, completely, totally, every time, everyone. You know, and then you can hear how there's some catastrophic language, terrific, horrific, horrible, wonderful, brilliant, amazing. Okay, it's sort of like a dramatic way of thinking. Social occasions tend to be either brilliant or awful. You know, you can see that it's very dichotomous. It's very swinging a pendulum. It's like brilliant, awful. Well, what about all the things in between? So it's being able to see things from a different perspective, in a different angle, or different angles, and having flexibility in your thinking and perspective of said event. I like to be confident and happy with the decisions I make. I don't tolerate gray areas very well. So learning to thrive means also learning to live in the gray a little bit. Not with everything, but it's a really good idea to allow yourself to just say, is it always that way? You know, because remember, you're priming yourself. You're using auto-suggestion. If you say, I never see my family, every time I go to an event like that, I always get sick. You know, all children are petri dishes. This type of thinking is very restricting, and it makes your world so much smaller and smaller and smaller, which you can see contributes to the phobia. We need to learn to tolerate gray areas in our lives and be okay with sitting in the discomfort of the gray area. And this is interesting because a lot of emetophobes struggle with indecision and second guessing because of their perfectionism. I like to be confident and happy with the decisions I make. Okay, well, what would be the worst case scenario if you made a decision and then it didn't work out quite the way that you imagined it working out? Like when I had very strong black and white thinking, for example, and we had just closed on our home, it was a renovation home and there was a lot of issues going on. And I remember standing out back and just crying and saying, this was the worst decision ever. I'm doomed. You know, there's no getting out of this. I can't just sell something like this. And then I created a lot of panic and anxiety, as well as catastrophizing the situation. But that's not actually how it ended up working out. I actually love my home now. So being able to see, well, yes, this is a very difficult time right now. This is going to cost more than we thought. This is going to take longer. These types of thinking, but I will, ultimately prevail in the end and create a home that I love, no matter what. That's bringing in those coping skills and being flexible with your thinking so you don't create unnecessary anxiety. I like others to be very clear about their views and opinions. I don't know if that's a really fair way of looking at things, because other people are on their own journeys and they're working through their own things. There's nothing necessarily wrong with wanting people to clarify what they mean, but we can't really put that on them and expect that and desire that 100% of the time. I generally think of people in terms of either being a success or a failure. There's no middle ground. This one's interesting because when my stepson was younger, he would constantly talk about good guys and bad guys and like the Ninja Turtles and shows, and is this guy a good guy? But if you think about like different movies written from different perspectives, if you were to view the movie from the other person's, the protagonist, the antagonist, different perspectives, it's interesting because you can actually start to see where they're coming from. And we can't just categorize people as good and bad and thinking in terms of that person's just a failure, that person's really successful. We've got to look for the middle ground in our thinking. Maybe this person made this decision because of something that we don't know happened. So considering all these different aspects, I tend to either really like or really dislike people. It's the same kind of idea. I love this person. I hate this person. Why can't you like certain aspects of this person's personality, but maybe you don't necessarily agree with their political views or even some unbecoming things about them? That's still okay. You can still appreciate and value the things that align with your values and what you like to do and hone in on those. But we don't have to categorize people this way. I like things to be very clear in life, having to do with coping skills so that I always know where I stand. You hear the always in here also. I like things to be clear. It's a lot of that perfectionist, always know where I stand. We just want to back this down and let go of the reins a little bit on this one and just say, hey, life is messy. Life can be messy. That's okay. And I don't always need to know where I stand because I can cope with the unexpected. I can cope with the unpredictable. It's okay. In fact, life having some spontaneity is actually a good thing. It actually makes it interesting. If everything was exactly perfectly structured and the same every single day, well, it would really be quite boring, right? I'm the sort of person who knows exactly what I like and what I don't like. This one is one of my favorites. I love mushrooms. I hate jazz. Stretch things for yourself. You don't have to live in these rules. I'm a picky eater. That's just how I like things. I hate this thing. That's too, I always talk about this question in terms of my husband because it's really interesting. Whenever we go to an ice cream shop, he gets the same exact ice cream every single time, mint chip. And I'm over there trying different things and he's laughing at me. And we're joking because I'm getting like a seasonal flavor like pumpkin spice or apple strudel. And he said, yeah, but if I get one and I don't like it, then I made a mistake and I'd rather just stick with something I know. So what is he saying? He's saying like I can't cope with not liking something 100% or knowing what's going to happen. So it's important for us in life to try different things, to cope with disappointment, to handle this. What's the worst case scenario? You just throw it out and go get another one, or try a different one, or try the little sample spoons, Don't just write these rules for yourself. If you really truly don't like something, that's a preference and that's okay. But we want to expand our reality. We want to embrace things. We want to try things. Sometimes I'll just turn on a different Spotify channel and just try to listen to a different type of music. Maybe I'll listen to folk music. Maybe I'll see if I like something else. That's how we determine if we like something else. But whenever we talk about thinking styles in general, what we have to understand is, why are these questions important? It's important because overall, this is how you're seeing the world. This is how you're seeing everything, which is projecting then onto the phobic thoughts, the phobic underlying beliefs. Anytime you're having an issue in your mental health, it generally has to do with a limiting belief coupled with thinking styles. right? So if we reduce the thinking styles in general in all aspects of our life, yes, trying a new food can help you overcome emetophobia because it's breaking that type of thinking that creates phobic thoughts about an unhelpful belief, okay? Very important. Okay, I'm a fair and honest person. I play by the rules in life. There's nothing really wrong with this, right? However, if we strongly agree with that one, a lot of times it means we might have social anxiety. It's like, nope, I never park in the handicap spot ever, no matter what the situation is. Like Rob was saying, I can't tolerate any kind of discomfort of running a yellow light. I can't handle these kind of things. So it's not, we're not saying to be reckless or to just do whatever, but there are times that those rules don't have to be followed 100% of the time, depending on what it is, right? So we just need to allow ourselves to be flexible enough in our thinking that if there is an emergency or something, that we can tolerate the discomfort of stepping outside of that boundary or that box, right? 85, I tend to see things in a very black and white way. A lot of times people don't really understand this question and they may answer it disagree. But if you answered agree to the other ones, generally you're thinking in a black and white way. And if you have emetophobia, you're generally a black and white thinker at some level. I would say generally over 40 or 50%. Right? So that one is what it is. It's really just working on trying not to see things in this very hyperbolic, extreme way. You know, this person didn't call me back, therefore I'm a bad friend and they hate me. So let's get into now what are the characteristics of black and white thinking. That's the quiz. That's really what I want you to work through in terms of your quiz and reflecting upon your own questions. So please go through it and write your own answers and your own reflections and be ready to discuss those. So it's also a lot of overgeneralizing in your thinking. Making broad assumptions based on limited experiences. So it's like, this thing happened once, therefore it's always going to happen. You hear the black and white, the always. I felt nauseous. I felt nauseated in a car in the back seat once, so now I will always get car sick. You can also hear how there's a lot of catastrophizing. I had food poisoning once, so eating out is always dangerous. Why are we doing this? Why do people do this? It's a defense mechanism meant to protect you from something you believe that you cannot cope with, that you believe is too hard, or that you cannot handle. Okay? So that is not helpful. This is what leads to avoidance, safety seeking, and unnecessary restrictions. So it's something we really, really need to work to reduce in our thinking. So the quiz would be, do you take one bad experience and assume it will always happen again? And then challenge those things. Challenge it. Tiny baby steps. Go out and challenge it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sit in the passenger seat. Sit in the back seat. See how you feel. Then process it well. Do you avoid situations because of a single past negative event? So challenge those assumptions by looking at evidence, looking at facts. Remind yourself that past experiences do not dictate future outcomes. There is some understanding that our experiences, our observations can help us create facts and understand reality, of course, right? There are some times when we can utilize our observations in a healthy way, but we need to make sure that it is not creating unnecessary restrictions in our lives. Okay, so remind yourself that past experiences, oh yes, all right. So example, you can change this unhelpful belief in your head. I always get sick in the car. To the majority of the time, I do not get sick in the car. And if I happen to get sick, I can either slow down the car, stop the car, pull over, allow myself to recalibrate, or if I couldn't control for any reason the vehicle that I was in, I could cope with the discomfort of being dizzy. So the next one is mind reading and fortune telling. The key point here is assuming that you know what others are thinking. This happens a lot in relationships or predicting negative outcomes without evidence. All right, so people will think I am weird if I leave the table suddenly. This is a lot of that social anxiety that emetophobes often struggle with, especially in terms of what if I go to the bathroom and it doesn't smell good after? What if I leave too many times during the movie and my date thinks I'm disgusting or weird? If I feel a little bit queasy, I'm definitely going to throw up. You know, if I have a little bit of saliva coming into my mouth, that means, oh, that's a surefire way to know I'm going to be sick. It's a lot of black and white thinking. If I wake up in the middle of the night, there's no other reason, I must be getting sick. Now I have a panic attack, right? I've created a panic attack. Black and white thinking can really create panic and anxiety. Listen for when you're telling yourself these stories. So it creates unnecessary anxiety, like I just said, and self-consciousness. So you might tell yourself, listen, not every time you had saliva in your mouth did you get sick immediately after. Sometimes it's caused for a number of reasons. You know, also identify if you're creating fake nauseousness. And okay, so there's a little quiz here on the slides. I'm not going to go through it. Emotional reasoning, believing something is true just because you feel it. Okay, so black and white and cognitive distortions, they often lead to us telling ourselves a story, creating an emotion about it, and then us believing that feeling or emotion. Well, I have anxiety, therefore there's something to be scared of. That's not true. The lenses are lying to you. These cognitive distortions yell and tell you a story that's not true. So it's up to you to start challenging it. Look for evidence against it, okay? Feelings are not facts, and anxiety can mimic physical symptoms, as you know, of course. I feel sick, so I must be sick. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. How many times, you know, has an emetophobe created anxiety and not actually got sick? How many times have you legitimately felt nauseated and not actually been sick, right? Getting sick is pretty rare. I feel anxious, so something bad must be about to happen. Check your lenses. What is going on in my lenses? Am I creating this anxiety? And if so, how do I challenge the thoughts that are causing it? So do you believe something is true just because you feel very strongly about it? Do you let your emotions dictate how you interpret reality? So you need to recognize that emotions are temporary and not always accurate. Remember, our emotions are created by our thoughts, which are created by those underlying belief systems. So always check the underlying belief system and challenge it if it's causing you negative emotions, okay? Use logic and facts to assess the situation. So I feel nauseated, so I must be sick. Change this to anxiety can cause the nauseousness. I felt this way before without getting sick, and I can cope with it anyway. So when it comes to thinking styles, we want to challenge the thinking style and then also reassure ourselves and build the new powerful belief that we could cope anyway. So that's really what I have for now with black and white thinking. You really just want to listen for it. It's a lot of all or nothing statements, mind reading. Oh yes, and jumping to conclusions in your thinking. This equals this. It's a lot of if-then statements. If I feel this way, then this is going to happen. Okay, so I'd like you to take notes on all these key points, put them on a note card, a cheat sheet, if you will, and have that available. You really want to process these in your positives. Catch them, change them, notice them, challenge them, amend them, and work to reduce them. We want to get your black and white thinking down under 10% to stop causing you havoc in your life, okay? It really drives when you have these cognitive distortions, it makes it a lot harder for you to challenge yourself and to challenge the safety seeking and avoidance. So we've really got to reduce them in our thinking. So work hard at this for at least a couple of weeks and continue to work on them even after we stop meeting. And you're going to utilize your journal to do so. So when it says managing your thinking and unhelpful thoughts, noticed black and white thought about saliva in mouth. Something like that, right? And you can also start utilizing these skill sets in your personal life, in your relationships, making sure you're not jumping to conclusions. Well, my husband said this, therefore he must mean this. You know, the opposite, honestly, of black and white thinking is to be curious, is to ask questions and to be curious. It doesn't matter what it's about. Does this really mean this? What did you mean by that? Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I talked really quickly. It's a lot to get through. The thinking styles, there's 9 of them, and I really never have enough time, and I mean never, to go through all of them. So just take ample notes, and I will see you soon.